Welcome back to another edition of DMV Hoops Weekly here on the Department of Hoops YouTube channel. I'm your host, Mason Kinnahan, and it almost seems like every team in the DMV was thriving this week. We've got a lot of great action to cover, so let's waste no more time and jump right in, starting with the Maryland Terrapins. It was a busy Wednesday night if you were a Terps fan, with not only a close matchup against Mount St. Mary's, which we'll get into in a second, but it was also decision day for five-star forward Baba Oludotun. The 6'10", 2026 prospect from Silver Springs, Maryland, decided to stay home and head to College Park over Arkansas and Georgetown. Maryland now has the third-ranked 2026 class on 24/7 Sports, as Baba becomes the second top 40 prospect in the Terps class, joining four-star guard Cade House. But the same night Baba commits to Maryland, the Terps found themselves in a dogfight against Mount St. Mary's. Maryland could not get a stop on the defensive end, helping the Mount gain a late lead in the second half. However, it was Kansas transfer David Coit who had an iconic performance for Maryland, helping save Maryland fans from misery on what should be a celebratory evening. Coit had a career-high 41 points, including shooting 8 for 10 from beyond the arc. Just an absurd performance from Coit, with some clutch shot-making down the stretch to help keep Maryland alive. The Terps were able to dominate this overtime period, helping them land a 95-90 victory over Mount St. Mary's, but it was much closer than it should have been. Here were Buzz Williams' thoughts on Coy's performance after the game.
Every game, there's been a different role assigned on things that we can't control, and I think that they continue to have growth. And I credit a lot of that to our staff and the teaching, the breakdown work, the clips we're showing in film. It is some elementary things that are required in this foundational work, and our guys continue to receive it, which is a credit to them.
Maryland now heads to Las Vegas for the Players Era Tournament this week. The Terps play UNLV on Monday night and Gonzaga on Tuesday. Let's now go to George Washington, where Chris Caputo's squad continues to cook and now holds a 5-0 record heading into the Cayman Islands Classic. GW dominated UMBC this week 89-52, including holding a 47-17 lead at the halftime break. Garrett Johnson led the way with 16 points off the bench, and Luke Hunger, Christian Jones, and Rafael Castro all had 13 points apiece. Castro also had 15 rebounds, and Hunger added 10 rebounds for the Revolutionaries. George Washington is now 53rd in KenPom with their incredible start to the season. This week, GW faces a trio of teams in the Cayman Islands Classic, including McNeese later today, Middle Tennessee tomorrow, and Murray State on Tuesday. American University fell to Rutgers this week 80-71. The freshman Madden Collins led the way for the Eagles off the bench with 16 points, but American overall struggled shooting throughout the night. The Eagles were out-rebounded by 10, which was one of the main reasons why they fell. There was still a lot to like, though, as Wyatt Nasadis and Greg Jones were also both in double digits. Here was Dwayne Simpkins' thoughts after the win.
Anytime you're battling a team on the road, Big Ten team, and they made some runs, we got called a couple timeouts. I never got a sense that we were rattled or anything. Guys' body language was good, and that means a lot for us. To be as young as we are, it's one of the things we're trying to learn is to next play mentality. It's going to take a while, but I think it's starting to take hold. We're starting to see some good things from that standpoint.
American has a busy week ahead as they take on Marywood on Monday before the Capital Thanksgiving Classic next weekend. Maine, Siena, and Longwood are all on the schedule for Coach Simpkins' team next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Let's now take a look at Georgetown, arguably the best team in the DMV region right now. The Hoyas only had one game against Wagner this week, which they dominated, a 92-75 win, which included all of Georgetown's starters being in double digits. Malik Mack led the way with 18 points and also dished out 5 assists. The Hoyas were without starter Vince Iwuchukwu, who underwent a scheduled medical procedure earlier last week. Iwuchukwu's estimated timetable to return is about 6 to 8 weeks. Georgetown takes on Dayton in the ESPN Events Invitational Magic Bracket on Thanksgiving, and depending on the result, will play the winner or loser of BYU and Miami on Black Friday. George Mason remained undefeated this week as well after picking up a stress-free 79-57 win against Jacksonville last Tuesday. Corey Mincy had 13 points and 4 assists for the Patriots, but it was Masai Troutman who led the way for George Mason with 20 points, shooting 5 for 10 from the field. Here were head coach Tony Skinn's thoughts following the game.
Yeah, it's a great win. I think sometimes I get greedy. It's just me by nature, but I've been complaining for the last 2 weeks, even though we're 4-0. But I just expect so much from these guys, and I thought that this win tonight, it felt right, just because I thought defensively, right off the gate, we just showed how good we can be defensively, and we showed teeth. So I'm happy with this win. Shout out to Zeta Tau Alpha for coming to represent and bringing the pressure. We need more games like that, because I thought the energy was great and phenomenal, but just extremely, extremely proud of these guys. Proud of this guy. He finally woke up. 7 blocks. Great game.
George Mason competes in the Sunshine Slam Beach bracket this week with a matchup against Ohio on Monday. Depending on the result in that one, they will either play the loser or the winner of FAU and LMU on Tuesday. The Patriots also play host to James Madison next Saturday as well. And last but not least, let's take a look at the Howard Bison. Bryce Harris continues to impress despite the end results for Howard. Harris had 26 points in the 64-60 loss to Stetson last Tuesday. Additionally, Harris dropped another 20 on Saturday and the Bison's 80-70 win over Niagara. Osei Okoji and Cam Gillis were also both in double digits in that matchup as well. Howard is now 3-3 on the season and will take on Duke in the Brotherhood run later today. But that'll do it here on this week's edition of DMV Hoops Weekly. Not a ton of games this past week, but expect next week's episode to be packed with Feast Week festivities for all 6 teams. With that being said, I hope everyone enjoys some great Feast Week action this week. And I've been your host, Mason Kinnahan, here on the DMV Hoops Weekly, here on the Department of Hoops YouTube channel, signing off.